the chamber this week. A heist about as crazy as the ones you see on film. The mechanics of your favorite cute monster fighting game. And we make our own kind of music and talk about being a bard. Join Joe and Cody as they explore the abandoned sardine factory and look for the grizzled ghost of the fisherman. Hope it's not Old Man Jenkins. That'd be really awkward. All this and more on Fandom Roulette. Hey everyone, welcome back to Fan Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And this is Fandom Roulette, a podcast where we talk about a myriad of nerdy things, including history, video games, tabletop RPGs, and whatever nerdy stuff we've been up to and Theo needs mentioning. So, kind of kicking off from that, Cody, what nerdy stuff have you been up to this week, my man?
Nerdy stuff? Well,
and none of this podcast.
Yeah, no, none of the nerdy stuff. I'm kidding. I played the EA, I guess it's early access. There's like a premium subscription you can get for like, I think it's like $15. And basically for any game that specifically comes out on EA's little launcher, I think you get like a week early from everyone else. So over the weekend, I spent $15 to play Anthem to get an idea if I wanted to throw down $60 on it, and I don't think I will.
I have heard very mixed things.
Yeah, I wanted this game to be really good because it's basically Iron Man. You get to play Iron Man. You get to go around in a big fucking suit and like shoot and blow up aliens and like bad guys, and it sounds so cool, but like the only fun parts take so long to get to, and the load times are horrific, and I spend more time waiting to play like a 15-minute incursion than I do like going through these cutscenes that I don't care about, like having conversations with people about shit that I just don't care about.
Oh no.
It's I mean, there's wow, I can talk today. I'm a podcaster. So if they fixed,
the podcasters don't need to talk good.
Right, they don't do the talk good, but I can sometimes. I think if the load times were faster and they spread out the dialogue a little further so that I'm not spending 20 to 30 minutes between game talking to like, especially because some of the people I just don't like. There's like this old woman who's like a librarian for this like future civilization, and she like hates your group, and so she's just like, I hate you and your people. You're all a bunch of idiots. And it's just like, do I have to keep listening to this? And the thing that sucks is there's really no way to determine whether or not you need to listen to these people. But sometimes talking to certain individuals will increase your reputation with certain factions. So if you don't talk to them, you're missing out on potential rewards. So it's like, cool, now I have to... I mean, I think I've figured out who gives what reputations and stuff, but I don't know the game verbatim. I didn't make it, so I don't know if I have to, like, maybe at the end of talking with the old lady, I eventually get something. Like, I don't know. But either way, it's super boring.
Oh, that sounds like fun.
Yeah, but when you're in the suit and you're fighting shit, it's so cool to, like, float around and, like, use this cannon that's like built into your wrist that like shoots missiles. Like, that's so fun.
It does sound like fun,
but it's mixed. I'm not gonna pick it up because I know I'm gonna spend. It's going to be the majority of me wading through dialogue that I don't care. There's also this like horrendous sound bug right now where if you're in the game, sometimes your just audio cuts out and the only fix is to just restart your game.
Ooh, that's fun. Well, I mean, it's a test, right?
Well, so technically it's released. It's just only released to people who subscribed to like to EA's like premium subscription service. So like, yeah, technically it's not out yet. It comes out the 22nd, so probably a day after we record this. But that shouldn't be in the game. Like,
That's
it's
fair.
because I'm actually just kind of convinced that there is no sound to the game, and I'm hallucinating an actual like voice actor saying these lines.
Man.
Yeah.
Now video games got subscription services?
Yeah. I mean, well, see, that's like the future, man. That's what everyone wants to do.
I mean, sure. And I had this whole awesome joke that I was gonna set up. I was gonna ask you if it was in the game, because like that's like EA's like, slogan or whatever.
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because I think it's EA Sports. They're like,
I mean, yeah,
it's like a branch of EA, but it was like EA Sports. It's in the game.
It's in the game, and then it like cuts to like some athlete being like, "It's in the game," and then like, you play the sports game.
Yeah, that's it. All sports games.
I mean, well, if they're made by EA Sports, it's
right?
In the game.
But besides that, just D&D stuff, really.
Hey,
we'll
EA
get
Sports
it.
fan,
We'll probably
that was for you.
EA, if you want to hit us up,
please
so
don't.
that I can shit on your video game.
Yeah, well,
I mean, hey,
get sponsorship,
right? They'd love it.
Hey, at least that makes our fans know that we're not bought and sold.
You're right.
We're rogue podcasters.
Ooh. We are the untouchables. We can't be bribed.
Yeah,
I'm learning things.
Boy, do I love the boxed foods from Blue Apron. Would it be funny if this was the first episode where we actually got like sponsorship?
That'd be great.
We can't be bought and sold. Casper mattresses.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, so you're doing D&D stuff. That's exciting.
Yeah, I was doing some D&D stuff, and I'm playing in a game right now. I can't say more than that, but I hope I get to soon.
Fair enough.
But it's super fun, and then I'm also I'm DMing a kind of a long hiatus game that's coming back. Yeah, Elf Force 1 is making their return.
Oh, I thought the boys were back in town, but...
No, I think the Rowdy Rough Boys are taking a very extended hiatus until I can find, like...
That next hook?
Yeah, or just, like, something, like... It ended up just kind of being... Not everybody was really into playing rogues, which is fine. Like, that's the whole point of, making sure that you're putting a game together with your friends. So we've kind of switched over to a more, adventurer role where, like, if you want to be an asshole, you can, but that's not, like, your job description.
Fair enough. I mean, that's just the D&D way.
That is the D&D way. So enough about my nerd shit. What nerd shit have you been up to?
Well, I have an answer to this. That's different than my usual answer.
I mean, I'd hope you have an answer to this.
I watched the first episode. Well, I mean, that's different than my other answer, which is I watched the first episode of The Umbrella Academy, like literally yesterday, on Netflix.
Nice. How was that going? I watched the my wife is a big fan of MCR, and he did the comic, and he did the opening intro for it, and I really liked the intro. It seemed really neat. So how did that first episode turn out?
I like it. It's I'm intrigued by it. How about that? It has a very, very good cast. They're all very, very like charming, likable people. Even the characters that aren't necessarily supposed to be charming and likable, I'm finding myself being drawn to them.
Okay, cool.
And so I've heard that it gets a little bit greater than the sum of its parts, because at the moment it's feeling like a teensy bit cliched, because it's like your pretty typical like deconstruction of like the superhero genre. So like,
right, which seems to be almost a trope at the moment.
Yeah, well, and so like to throw out like the basic like plot basically in 1989, but I think in the comics it's earlier than that. Like 43 women across the world became pregnant simultaneously, even though none of them were pregnant at the same time, or like they weren't pregnant that they started. They all give birth simultaneously, and then there's this like eccentric billionaire who goes around the world and he tries to get all 43 children, and he's only able to get 7 of them, and he basically like raises them, and then he turns them into like a little super squad. And now it is we flash forward into the future, and like they've all kind of gone their separate ways, and you know, like there's one who's become kind of like a like early Nightwing-esque character, so like he's like still a crime fighter, but he's like edgy, and he like throws knives, and he wears all black. And then there's like and then there's like the like kind of leader who like was the only kid who actually like stayed with the organization, and his gimmick is that like his torso is gigantic because apparently he was like crossbred with like a Martian ape.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
Because
because like he gets injured in the line of duty, so his like father saves him by like giving him like an ape torso basically.
Weird.
Yeah. And then like there's the one character who like his power is like he can like commune with the dead, but like his powers turn off if he's like constantly like drunk or high. So like I've seen that before. Things like that. And so it's like it's one of those deals where it's like, boy howdy, being like a child soldier would kind of mess you up in the long term, don't you think? But it's like the X-Men have been doing that for a while at this point already.
True. Well, also, there's that other show that's coming out soon that's like the DC version of this.
Oh, Doom Patrol?
Yeah, I just saw a commercial for that, and I'm like, damn, that's pretty cool, too.
I've heard really good things about Doom Patrol, which is like weirdly making me consider like looking at maybe possibly signing up for the DC Universe streaming service, which was a sentence I never thought I would say.
Right? I mean, here's the thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, and maybe I'm just like, I haven't seen this man in a while, but like, is fucking Brendan Fraser in this show?
Oh yeah, I think he's like
the
Metal Man or whatever.
Yeah, so like they do a couple of like flashback scenes, and I'm just like, wait, he's still doing shit? And part of me wants to watch it just for that.
Right? Because like Brendan Fraser like just disappeared from our lives.
I mean, to be fair, he was attacked by a mummy and Satan. Like, he's had a very complicated life.
And then he was like a land developer, and CGI animals like exploded a porta potty he was in.
That's true. He was also
Furry Vengeance was the name of that flick.
Ooh, okay.
Yeah.
That's got different connotations now.
Oh, yeah. But, yeah, I mean, here's the thing. I'm going to keep watching it. I mean, A, because I have a Netflix subscription, so, like, why not?
Right.
And B, like, there were moments that, like, felt very transcendent and very cool. Like, some really weird, interesting, creative, like, filmmaking on top of everything else. Plus, I like I said, I love the cast, and like for me, like 95% of like will I continue on with this show or not is based on like how much I like the cast. So
okay, cool. Yeah, I also have a Netflix account. I feel like at this point you either have one or you're like siphoning it from somebody. So
yeah, pretty much.
So you're basically a symbiote. And if that's the case,
like the hit film Venom starring Tom Hardy.
Oh, yes.
I still have to see that flick. I haven't
seen it, but I've heard very mixed things.
Yeah. If by mixed you mean it's amazing. That's what I've heard. All of my sources point to amazing. Anyway, so yeah, we're going to jump into the content now.
What? This has been content. Riveting content.
I mean, that's fair,
but let's workshop
our intros lately.
Yeah, let's workshop this little section a bit. How about instead of the content, how about let's dip dive? Or we can go back to a classic. Let's take a dump on history.
Let's take a dump on history.
Yeah.
Funny thing about that, I was very tired that week, so I don't remember saying that.
Oh yes, sometimes life is complicated, and when I go to edit these, I'm like, Oh God, I said that? Oh no.
So anyway, insert like a sound right there.
History.
So anyway, this season we're talking about heists. And
Yeah.
we're going all the way back, Cody, to
1985?
all the way back. No.
2015?
Nope. 2003.
Wait.
So put on your
yeah, what kind of reference are you going to make to good old 2003?
2003. Put on your Black Eyed Peas shirt, I think. Maybe.
Well, I graduated high school in 07.
Yeah.
So, gosh, I was in middle school.
Yeah, like we were getting ready to
Live Strong bracelets.
There we go. Live Strong bracelets.
Right? That was a thing. Harry Potter?
Yeah. Harry Potter, sure.
Was it when? Yeah, because the first one came out when I was
the third Lord of the Rings film.
Yeah.
Came out in 2003, and then it won all the Oscars in 2004. But anyways, so we're gonna be talking about the Antwerp diamond heist.
A diamond heist, amazing.
A diamond heist, which is a reported $100 million that were stolen and never recovered.
But I mean, if you think about it, though, diamonds aren't really like a rare resource. So like the quote unquote money is like made by diamond companies who sponsored today by
Zales. Zales, are you gonna go and get engaged to a person? You put a diamond on that thing.
Yeah, like our foretellers have taught us. If you like it,
then
you should put a ring on it.
Okay, so anyway, so in 2003, so there's this area called the Antwerp Diamond District, which was supposedly one of the most heavily guarded areas in the entire world, which had things reportedly including like a lock that would create like a new 10-digit code like every hour, like 100 million possible combinations. There you go. It had infrared heat detectors. It had a seismic sensor, some radars, and a magnetic field. And the building itself had a private security force. Now, this is located in Antwerp, Belgium, where this is like one of the largest kind of like diamond storage areas in the world. So there was a 5-man team led by a name I
would hope they had a name.
Led by a man named Leonardo Notable.
You got it. I believe in you.
All right, we're gonna do a clean take here.
Try that one more time.
Led by a man named Leonardo Notarbartolo. There we go.
Okay.
Perfect.
You fumbled through it, but A for effort.
Notarbartolo. There we go.
Nope. We should probably stop there.
Okay. Notarbartolo. Anyway, he led this group called the School of Turin, which in Italian, because boy howdy, am I not butchering any of this stuff, is of course known as the I had it here somewhere. I had it in my notes. Where did I lose it? Man, this is a mess.
Oh man, what a week!
Oh yeah, the La Scuola di Torino, which is of course the School of Turin. So anyway, this guy named Leonardo, he was familiar with the area, and he sometimes traveled to this area to pawn off diamonds that he had stolen back in his native Italy, because he was he had kind of been a thief his whole life. Reportedly, at the age of 8, he started stealing from milkmen, which is kind of a dick move if you think about it.
I mean, for the most part, stealing something is kind of a dick move.
I mean, sure. if you want to get technical. But anyway, so he rented a sparsely furnished office for approximately 25,000 Belgian francs, which is about 700 per month, at the Antwerp Diamond Center, which was a technique that was pioneered by a Serbian criminal named Mr. Stan, or Vojislav Stanmirovic. Nailed it. And so basically, like, yeah, he had a tenant ID that offered 24-hour access to the building. He had posed as a diamond merchant to gain credibility. And after a while, he and his team started stealing security footage to conceal their identities. So basically, here's what happens. We find ourselves going into this seemingly impossible to bypass security system. It had 10 layers of security. And they previously thought that this was impenetrable, so it involved, like I said, cameras, a combination dial, a keyed lock, magnetic sensors, locked steel gates, light sensors, heat and motion sensors, and keypad disarming sensors. And so some of the techniques they used included using aluminum to trick the magnetic field, so they could strip plastic off the wires of the sensor circuits. And then after that, they basically busted into this area with lockboxes and busted open it's reported to be 123 out of 60 that included gold, silver, diamonds, and these safe deposit boxes were made out of steel and copper and had both a key lock and a combination lock. So yeah, they stole about $100 million worth of diamonds and gold and things like that. So they loaded it up. It took about 2 hours to get it all out of the building, and they thought they were gonna get away with it because they had done seemingly the impossible. But as we know, sometimes things go bad.
You mean crime doesn't pay?
No, crime doesn't pay. To quote my hero from Fight Fighters, the Gravity Falls episode, winners don't lose.
Accurate.
So there was a man named Pietro Tavano who was known to the gang as Speedy. And after a while, he was he started getting a panic attack, and he made Leonardo pull over the car. And so basically after a while, he started throwing evidence into the woods. And after they calmed down, they, recovered most of the contents and they sped off, except that they didn't realize that they had accidentally been throwing evidence in an area belonging to a man named August Van Kamp, who was a Belgian hermit. So he called the police, and they found some things that included videotape film, a half-eaten sandwich, some small diamonds, and a receipt for a video surveillance system. But this was not enough. So this was enough evidence to link the crime back to Leonardo. Now, he claims that the heist only was worth $20 million worth of merchandise instead of the $100 million that was missing from it. He also claimed that he was working he was not the ringleader. He was working for a gentleman who was a diamond merchant, and that the whole thing was designed to be an insurance fraud. So, they steal the things, they claim insurance, they get all that money back, and then they come out of it even richer than they were before. But it got him 10 years in prison, and the rest of the gang, they all got 5 years in prison. But this whole thought, as I was reading about this one, I was like, I'm going to put this one near the end because this feels like one of the more Hollywood-ish heists to me, It's a team of 5 guys, which is a pretty respectable number for a heist of this size. It involves, that moment where someone accidentally leaves a little bit too much evidence that leads it back to them ultimately. And the fact that it involved, lots and lots of deep security systems, which is, always my favorite part of watching those movies, is watching them, deactivate all those security systems and things like that. But anyway, that is the Antwerp diamond heist. Do you have any questions for me, Cody?
not any questions, but damn, they almost got away with it too. If they
Yeah,
hadn't
right?
left evidence at a scene of a hermit.
So, I mean, yeah, apparently it was, depending on who you're talking to, it was a salami sandwich.
Oh.
So he literally, like, this Italian man left the most Italian clue at the scene of the evidence.
Oh man.
And I could say that because I'm Italian.
Oh, okay. That's how we're gonna do this. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm allowed to say that because I'm Italian.
There you go.
I got marinara in my blood stream.
That's probably not healthy for your blood or your heart.
Italians thrive on tomatoes.
Okay.
They're red like blood, Cody.
Ah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the story of the Antwerp Diamond Heist. I thought it was a fun heist.
I do have a question now that I'm thinking about it.
Sure.
Are there any movies or fictional material, just in general, based on this Diamond Heist? Or
so apparently, I don't remember what studio it was, but a studio had gotten the rights to it. Paramount Pictures. They optioned the rights to create a film about the heist, but they have since inspired, and it was going to be produced by J.J. Abrams, but he got busy with a little project called Star Wars. So,
that would do
did you ever hear about that one?
The Star Wars? Yeah, I think I have.
Yeah. It's different than the Star Trek. So
yeah. I've heard there are two of these Star movies, and neither are like the other.
Star movies, something park. David Bowie parody that I'm singing right now. It's a Star Wars.
Oh boy.
Oh man.
So
Cody, can you look at your watch?
Oh yeah, beep 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 beep.
Do you think it's about time for
middle section?
Hey everyone, welcome to the middle section.
Yep, seems about that time of the day.
Oh man.
What a good segue.
That's I miss singing, but honestly, I love doing the whole awkward setup for the awkward silence that ensues. It's so good. It's so uncomfortable to sit here in like silence for like not to or like take people behind the scenes. Welcome to behind the scenes of our podcast.
Yeah,
this is where we have our team of writers who like write quality jokes, and we just immediately put them through the shredder.
Right.
Yeah, we're like, hey, where's those mediocre guys? I'm just kidding. This is good stuff. Good podcasting. Anyway, hey guys, did you know that we have social medias? We do.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we have like a Twitter.
Yeah, and the tag is fandomr_podcast.
And we're going to start putting up weird and wild stuff.
Yeah, we already started doing that. It's
I know.
It's only going to get weirder and wilder.
Yeah, exactly. You don't know the words that are going to come out of these two sleep-deprived brains.
Yeah, constant sleep deprivation is what keeps us podcasters going. So anyways,
yeah,
if you want to get in on this conversation, because we've moved over to a kind of seasonal structure where we talk about certain topics, broad nerdy topics in our area. And if you want to be like, hey, you know what I'd like to hear about this thing, well, you can email us at fanroulettepodcast@gmail.com. You can also find more information about us and the rest of our episodes if you go to www.fandomroulette.com.
Boy, that sounds like a quality website, Cody.
It is a quality website made by my wife,
his wife.
And it has all of our episodes. It has a little bit of information about us, our social media links, and all that stuff. And on top of that, if you go all the way to the bottom, instead of giving us your email, you can fill out a little questionnaire and get your thoughts and messages to us to our email that way.
We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, we are also on so many different platforms.
You won't believe it.
Yeah, we're on SoundCloud. We're on iTunes. We're on Google Play.
No way.
And Spotify.
Whoa, I know Spotify. I listen to music on it.
Yeah, well, you can listen to us on it as well. So,
Are you telling me that Spotify has has podcasts?
it has sounds and podcasts. It's got both.
Yeah, don't draw attention to the dumb thing I said, Cody.
But you know it's my thing. So, if you have people that you want to share this with, because every time you share this, it helps us out in a big way, you can get at us on one of those media platforms. And speaking of our other social media platforms, we're on Instagram and Tumblr and Facebook. All Fandom Roulette.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and that's where we're also posting wild and crazy stuff. So check us out on those.
Crazy guys.
Get in on this conversation and make sure you're liking, subscribing, and for sure sharing us with your friends, because the more attention we get, the more we can do this and do other fun things as well. We're always cooking up something new. We're cooking up ways to make this podcast better. So, yeah, that is our spiel.
Agreed.
Yeah.
And now, back to the fun. Oh, hey.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see you there.
Look, it's everyone's favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
Where a character comes in and has interactions with us.
Yeah, so who did you bring into the Fandom Roulette office this week?
Oh. Hey, Ganon. Are you trying to do a Warlock Punch? Because that move takes like 3 full minutes.
It really does.
How? Yeah, I know, right? He put up a sign. It's like, I love listening to you guys talk about video games on the video game section of the podcast. That was all conveyed in that.
You know, that was always the one thing that I truly did love about Ganon and the Ganondorf iterations throughout the entire Zelda series, that all he needed to do to convey what he wanted was to laugh or grunt.
Mm-hmm.
And like that sword that he has that could literally behead a child, but like never uses it unless absolutely necessary.
Can I do like a super duper quick segue real quick?
Yeah.
Did you ever watch the anime Gurren Lagann?
I watched up to the big plot point, and I haven't got past that point yet.
Do you know who Viral's voice actor is?
No.
It's Link.
Love it.
Well, it's crazy because it's like I was watching it with a friend and he pointed that out to me and I was like, man, I never thought of Link actually having a voice, because like I don't think anyone actually speaks in the Zeldaverse. It's just various like grunts. Yeah,
I wonder why that. It's so that I am sure that having just a couple of noises cuts down on costs for
100%, right? Well, because
and then not only that, but like you could make any kind of game, and then as long as you've got good language translators, like you're still like embedded in that universe without like the weird kind of like, oh, they have these voices, but we have to translate that to whatever language we're in.
For sure, yeah, it adds a certain level of universality to it. Yeah, no, I just thought it was funny that you said like, like Ganon's like laughs and grunts like convey so much. And it's like, yeah, but no one else is talking in those games either, really.
Right.
But anyways, he said he wants to learn how to defeat that little damn yellow rat that keeps beating him with his laser beams.
Yeah, I mean, it's tough trying to fight a small electric rodent who shoots laser beams.
Are we talking about Pokemon this week?
Oh boy, yeah.
I'm excited.
So
tell me about these Pokemans.
So for those of you who have been following, you probably know this already, but while for the most part I'm a fairly shallow dive nerd in a lot of different things so that I can experience the world of nerdom in its entirety, there are a few things that I am deeper and more passionate about, and one of them is Pokemon. And I'm here to tell you why I think this game is the most complex, fucking wild multiplayer RPG, JRPG, that you can sink your teeth into. So I'm gonna move past. If you don't know what Pokemon is, to sum it up, it is a JRPG where you what?
If you don't know what Pokemon is, where have you been living?
That too. I mean, some people know what a Pokemon is. Like, they'd be able to point at Pikachu and be like, "That's a Pokemon." But for those of you who don't know, it is a popular anime, video game series, trading card series. It's basically a whole slew of things about these collectible monsters.
Animes.
Yeah, and the video game, in my personal opinion, is one of the most complex and competitive JRPGs, which is such a weird idea, a weird concept. A JRPG that is multiplayer and competitive, and I'm here to tell you why. So, you battle with these Pokemans. You go around and you battle, and the competitive part is you have 6 slots for your Pokemon on your team. That's kind of like your life points. Like, if you run out of Pokemon, like if they're all defeated, you're out. But
oh no,
those 6 slots can be filled with any of the 809 total Pokemon that are in the video game franchise.
That's a lot of Pokemons.
That's a lot of Pokemon, and they all have different stats and types and movesets. And I'll get there. I'll show you how deep this rabbit hole goes in the most, like, easy to understand way possible. So we've talked about this before. JRPGs, Cody, RPGs in generals. Yes.
Did you get cool little sunglasses that only sit on the bridge of your nose?
Yes. I know this is an audio medium, so you couldn't see it, but yes, the glasses just appeared there. It was wild. So
showing me how deep the rabbit hole goes.
Yes.
Like Morpheus does.
If you take the red pill, right? It's the red pill that takes you further, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, blue pill's like, nah, I'm out.
Mm-hmm.
Which for everyone else, the blue pill is skipping to the next section.
Nice.
So, in most RPGs, there are stats. In Pokemon, there are. I just counted and I lost it because I was talking while counting.
Sorry.
Okay, so there's HP, your health points. That's how much health you have. The more HP you have, the potential to live longer, basically. There's attack, defense, which is pretty straightforward. Speed, which is how fast you move.
Okay.
And then the last two can be a little confusing for somebody who's not familiar with it. It's called special attack and special defense. And all Pokemon moves are split up into physical and special, which is kind of their way of being like almost like magical, if you will. So, and of all those 809 Pokemon, every Pokemon has different levels of HP, attack, defense, speed. Some Pokemon are naturally speedier than others. Some are bulkier and have a lot of defense and special defense, and everything in between. So then you can customize this. So say you like your Pikachu. Pikachu is pretty quick. Mm-hmm. That's kind of its upside. But you want to make it more your own. Well, there are 2 different kinds of stats you can like sort of manually alter on every Pokemon. And they're called EV, which is effort value, and IV, which is inherent value. Eevee points can be gathered by defeating Pokemon or giving them certain items.
Okay.
Every Pokemon can acquire 510 total points. And they're just basically flat stat bonuses. But you can only max, due to how they calculate stuff, you only ever get benefits up to putting it into one stat at 255. And the way you, at least in base, like Pokemon Red and Blue, like before all the other games, you basically controlled that by fighting certain Pokemon. So certain Pokemon, if you defeat them, give you those Eevee stats. So like, the easy example is if you beat a Zubat, you know, the annoying bat that is in every cave and you can never get rid of them.
Yeah. GD Zubats.
If you defeat those Zubats, you get speed EVs. At least that's what I remember. And so the more Zubats you fight, the more of those speed EVs that you get. It's a fairly... If you do the math, you can figure out how many Zubats you need to defeat in order to get the proper stats, but there's a lot of math that's involved in that. But basically, point is, you get EVs by either giving your Pokemon items that raise it through that, or fighting certain Pokemon.
All right.
IV stats are just the stats that the Pokemon is born with. And they can be different. And each stat, so, you know, HP, attack, defense, speed, special attack, special defense, they can all get, I believe it's 30.
Okay.
And that's not like a whole lot, but the way they calculate in game, those can, like, that can make or break certain parts of the game. Especially with, like, speed. But the only way you can get them is by seeing them for the first time. So what a lot of people will do, and this is one of the big reasons why I stopped playing it, and I'm more of just like an aficionado. Like I just kind of keep watching and seeing how the game progresses instead of playing it, is you basically have to breed Pokemon to get the right stats you want. And it's a long process. Like in my free time back in my college days, it took me like a month to breed my perfect team. Like a whole month of me just like going to the daycare, putting Pokemon together, getting an egg, unhatching it, and then going to a person to tell me what their stats were. I had a spreadsheet on a USB stick of the stat buildup. It's insane. So
that's very intense.
It is intense. It was a lot of unnecessary work. So you have your stats. You got your EV points and your IV points that you can boost those stats even higher. So let's talk about one of the things they added to the game. They added dual typing. Certain Pokemon have more than one type. So when the game first came out, in the first couple of iterations of the game, you were either a bird Pokemon or a fire Pokemon or a water Pokemon. And that was it. And there was kind of a rock, paper, scissors matchup to that. Now, there's dual typing. Pokemon can have two types. So, like, and I'm going to use this as an example here. You can have a water bird. And one of my favorites, because he's so goofy, is Pelipper, is this, like, kind of basically a seagull, like the seagull Pokemon. And he's water and flying. And this changed how that rock, paper, scissors game worked, because it used to just be water beats fire. But what happens when a grass Pokemon attacks a water Pokemon who's also flying? Because grass doesn't affect flying Pokemon.
What does happen?
So basically what happens is with the addition of dual typing, their coverages and weaknesses have changed. It used to just be if you were weak to it, it did this amount of damage. But now there's varying levels of effectiveness. So if you happen, for instance, like my thing with the water bird, water and bird Pokemon are both weak to electric Pokemon. So that Pokemon gets a double weakness to electric. Which means when you're making your team, you have to make sure that you're working with good type coverage, or basically you're not all weak to like one type, or not too weak to too many types. And that's not including all the types that they added, like steel Pokemon, which is kind of weird because we have rock and ground Pokemon. Mm-hmm. They also added fairy Pokemon, which is kind of like the hard counter to the ever popular dragon type. And they changed a lot of stuff in this game. So we have dual typing. We have a bunch of stats. We have 809 Pokemon to fit into 6 slots. We then also add on to that layer abilities. Every single Pokemon has at least 1 or 2 abilities, sometimes even 3, which is just based on what you get, or the first grab at that Pokemon. So like the first time you see them, they have a certain ability, and those abilities can be huge game changers. Some Pokemon have the ability to basically, upon contact with a physical move, so like if someone uses a physical move on this Pokemon, it can induce a status effect. So like it might burn a Pokemon just by touching them. Or maybe there's one called Lightning Rod, which I believe heals a Pokemon if they are hit with a lightning move. And there's a ton of these abilities, and there's a ton of different Pokemon with varying abilities. And on top of that, all of them have what's called hidden abilities, which are special abilities that you can only acquire through whatever the game's special, like, little gimmick is.
What?
Right. And some of them are huge. Like, getting certain Pokemon with certain abilities is like, holy shit. Because, like, for instance, the starters are a good example. The starting Pokemon usually get the same ability, which is, hey, when they're weak, their base type damage does more. So like a grass Pokemon, if they're wounded, like critically, like they're about to die, their grass moves do more damage. But some of them have hidden abilities that are different from that, which make them more viable. Like, for instance, that grass starter, I think Bulbasaur, his hidden move is chlorophyll, which makes him faster during different weather effects, which in this case is sun. And that's a whole nother thing on the list, because there's weather effects. There are moves that change the weather of the game that have different effects depending on which Pokemon are in play.
Has this been around since game 1?
No, they've slowly been adding these. But you're all getting it at once.
Yeah, this is a lot.
Then they added natures. So every Pokemon randomly is assigned a nature. And I believe there's something like 20 of these natures. And usually what happens is they increase a particular stat. So like, let's just say one's like, not that this is one, but I can't think of one off the top of my head. Let's say it's friendly. Maybe friendly increases their attack stat, but lowers their defense stat. And they have one nature for every possible outcome based on the stats. And then there are some natures that are basically neutral, like they increase attack, but also decrease attack. So they just kind of null each other out.
Interesting.
And like IVs, you get these on first contact. So sometimes you're breeding Pokemon just to get the right nature, because if you want a really fast one, you'll want to get a nature that increases speed, but decreases a stat that maybe you don't care about.
Uh-huh.
I'm not done yet.
Oh my god, what?
Then there are items. Every Pokemon can hold one item. This one's fairly old, but the list of items that have been added to this game is insane. Items are game changers. They can give you bonus to stats at the cost of only being able to use one move, to constantly healing a little bit of health at the end of your turn. Like there are so many items that change the way Pokemon work. On top of that, in the item slot, you can give them Mega Stones, which some Pokemon have Mega Evolutions that only evolve in combat, which turn them into different Pokemon with different stats, different types, and different abilities. Okay. So you have to, when you're, like, for instance, Charizard is a good example. Someone could play a base Charizard, or put a Mega Evolution Stone on him. and you activate that Mega Evolution during combat. So not only are you playing rock, paper, scissors with Charizard, like, oh yeah, he's weak to fire, but what if he uses the Charizard that makes him dragon type, and then my water moves don't do nearly as much damage on top of, and that takes up one of your item slots, is this Mega Evolution. So then, in this most recent one, they added what's called Z moves, which was Sun and Moon's way of introducing an item that uses like a super all-powerful move, but you can only use it once, and it's kind of tied to whatever element that you choose. So like there's Z moves for every like status effect, or for every elemental type, and it'll be like a one-time use like super move. And those can be really powerful on Pokemon who need like type coverage, but they don't have, you know, the best attack or the best special attack. So 809 Pokemon you can pick from, 6 in your party. You have to worry about not only the stats for each Pokemon, because that determines what kind of Pokemon they are. For instance, a term that's used in competitive play is a sweeper, or a Pokemon that's got really high attack and special attack, so that they kill Pokemon really quickly. Like that's their job, is to just try to clean the Pokemon out. They usually have good type coverage and have high damage. So not only do you have to worry about the types and making sure that you're kind of covered for any situation, because you never know what Pokemon's going to come out of it, you know? Like, you never know when someone's going to bring out their Pikachu or their Alakazam, which is a psychic Pokemon, or, you know, what have you. But then you got to worry about their abilities, because they could have one of 2 abilities. And then you got to worry about their items, because their items change up, and their Z moves and their Mega Evolutions. This is, and I'm kind of bummed that it's not a bigger thing in the world, is like this deep JRPG competitive scenario where you can pick from a huge list of Pokemon or fighters or whatever, and then battle them in this kind of rock, paper, scissors, where, you know, you have your 4 moves, but then you gotta like constantly think like, well, what if they switch their Pokemon out with something that will deal with my Pokemon? And it's like super advanced poker in ways where like you have to predict what your opponent's gonna do, or if they or predict what move set they might have, and see if, you know, to gauge whether or not you have the right setup. So there's so many of these different layers that they've added, and they only continue to add layers to this game.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, Gen 8's gonna be fucking crazy. But I got real deep into this. I would say probably around Gen 5, Gen 6 is when I really got deep. But boy howdy, it's fun to watch. Like if you go on YouTube and like look for competitive Pokemon games, it is crazy if they have like commentary, because it's all about like guessing your opponent and figuring out like what you need to do versus their setup and their set. And like every Pokemon's got a bunch of different moves that they can learn. So like there's so many layers to this game, and I'm just really surprised that this competitive RPG nature hasn't come up anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I just thought this was a game about cute animals that fight each other.
It is. On the surface, it is, and you can play it that way. Don't get me wrong. But if you want to battle someone, this gets deep. It doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
But it can be. And that's what's really fun about it. My only complaint with Pokemon as a whole is the stat build, like the way you have to get stats with like EVs and IVs, is such a pain in the ass that you either need to dedicate a ton of time to like make legitimate teams, or play online with like almost ROM hacks to basically build your perfect team. And if you didn't have to do that, like if I could just level up a Pokemon, get the abilities that I want, maybe breed for like natures or like what they call egg moves, because some moves you can only get while breeding with other Pokemon. I would be into that. I would play competitive Pokemon if I didn't have to do like, 50 plus hours of grinding to get the right Pokemon.
Yeah, jeez.
So
that's crazy.
That is my thought. If you are like super into RPGs, I think this is a neat direction if you're looking to like do something you haven't done before. Because like RPGs, most of them, especially turn-based, are pretty similar at this point. There's not a whole lot of new innovations going on. But being able to play against another person in this kind of crazy layered upon layered game, it's what I dream. I wish I could be the Pokemon master. And that's it. That's all I got.
The tabletop RPG section is canceled because I need to go take a nap. No, wow, jeez, I had no idea.
Yeah, and I mean, like I said, you don't have to
insanity.
play it that way. It doesn't have to get that crazy,
but
it can be, and that's super cool. Like the idea that you can just start learning these new layers and like really getting up there. Like watching Pokemon tournaments, like they do a couple of those like, every other year or whatever. They're super fun to watch. Like just kind of like it's like poker, like people like to watch poker because of like all the mind games that are going on. Like same thing, but with cute Pokemon. What's not to love?
Yeah, geesh. I had no idea.
So for all of those who have stuck in, thank you. I appreciate you hearing me out on this ridiculous tirade of Pokemon knowledge.
Ganondorf's head exploded, just for the record.
I had a feeling it did.
Yeah.
But,
do you smell the bad smell?
It smells like...
It smells like leaving out chicken too long when it gets all rotten and nasty and stuff.
Yeah, it also smells like burnt rubber.
Ooh, that's
gross.
Not a good smell. Oh, hey guys, it's Garbage Kid. Garbage Kid is a section of the podcast where we roll up a random character from Xanathar's Guide to Everything, a D&D supplemental book that about a quarter of the way through has lots of charts if you ever want to roll up a completely random character or NPC for your characters to interact with. So I'm actually, Cody, I'm very excited about this one because
I'm excited too.
I feel like our Garbage Kids have started becoming a little rote, and my friend Quake Tempestbane breaks all the rules.
Tell me about Quake.
All right, so Quake is a human monk who was originally a sage and is neutral. So they knew who their parents were or are, and they were born in a house, and they had 7 siblings who were older, but they lived in an orphanage. Because one parent died, they were killed in battle, and the other parent was in prison. And they lived a squalid lifestyle.
Okay.
Which meant that they lived in a rundown shack. And they spent their childhood alone because they had no close friends.
Gasp.
They became a sage because they discovered an old library and pored over the texts that they found there. That experience awakened a hunger that they had for more knowledge. And they became a monk because they sought instruction to gain a deeper understanding of existence and their place in the world. Now, they, of course, lived in a monastery that was carved in an iceberg in the frozen reaches of the world.
Wow, damn, that's dope.
I know, right? The monastic icon is the monkey because their quick reflexes and the ability to travel through the treetops are two of the reasons why the order admired the monkey. Not a lot of treetops in the frozen reaches of the world, but okay.
You know what? This world has frozen trees with ice monkeys.
Let it go. That's all I can do before I get sued. And then their master was a tyrant whom they had to defeat in single combat to complete their instructions. Now, They're 21 to 30 years old, and they had 3 major life events. They committed a crime or were wrongly accused of doing so. The crime was theft, and the punishment was that they were nearly caught in the act. So they had to flee and are wanted in the community where the crime occurred.
Cool.
But they did gain a bit of good fortune. A distant relative left them a stipend that enables them to live a comfortable lifestyle for 19 years.
I like how thieving turned into, well, my uncle died, so I guess I'll live on that for a while.
Right? This one's all over the place, and I kind of love it. And then the last one is that they met someone important. So, who's that? I don't know. It's up to you to decide.
Maybe it's one of the other garbage kids.
Maybe. But maybe it's one of our other friends.
Yeah.
Insert name here.
Yeah.
Now, once we're done talking about our garbage kids and introducing them to you, the world, then Cody and I determine how edgy they are by a very patent-pending system where we talk about how they would fare in the great store Hot Topic. Cody, do you think that our good friend Quake Tempest Bane would go to the Hot Topic?
Well, let me introduce you to my theory on this.
Okay, introduce me.
So starters, name alone, hell yes.
Yep.
Background, early life, hell yes.
Obviously.
I think in their youth, for sure, stole a bunch of shit from Hot Topic. In fact, that's probably the crime. They stole from Hot Topic. Yes. Nowadays, probably not.
Because they're wanted by the Hot Topic.
Well, not only that, but like they got to understand the world. And you can't do that by just going in and getting a Invader Zim wristband or a Harry Potter fleece blanket with your favorite house on it.
That's fair. Not your favorite house, Cody. The house that you would be sorted into if you got your letter.
Yeah, whatever. It's actually not the first time this week someone had to correct me on a Harry Potter trivia.
I'm sorry, Cody.
Because I know nothing about Harry Potter.
That was rude of me. I'm sorry.
No, I only read the first 3 books and then I saw the movies. And I'm a bit hard of hearing, so most of the time I like subtitles and shit, but like sure. I still don't know, like all their names are very like, you know, very magical and whimsical, so it's kind of like I don't know who that guy is.
Yeah, there are a lot of them for sure.
Although I know Ron, because that's probably the most mundane ass like wizard's name ever.
That's fair. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
None of his.
So what about you? What about you? How do you feel about Hot Topic?
Yeah, I think in their youth definitely, and I think that because they lived a squalid lifestyle for a while, they would just go in and look around and be like, no one understands me, and then they started stealing like My Chemical Romance, like
yeah, some
t-shirts,
some Incubus CDs.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other things that you would buy at Hot Topic. So maybe some fake body jewelry.
Yeah, the clip-on nose ring.
But then they got caught in the act, and they were like, "If you ever come back here quick, then you'll be thrown in jail." And he was like, "I'll never go back there.
I'll never go back there. Now it's time for Spencer's Gifts."
Yeah, now it's time for me to go down to what's it called? FYE.
Challenge everything.
Oh no. So we're talking about bards.
Well, before we talk about bards,
yeah.
I wanna paint a picture for you.
Okay.
Imagine, if you will,
I'm imagining
you're in a room.
Okay.
Wood floors, clean.
Okay.
There are rows and columns of seats with these strange, like, places to put your arms and maybe, like, a book or two. There's a black board at the front of the room with me standing in front of the series of desks, and all those desks are all now filled with people, including you. Do you hear that?
Do.
It's time to better know the class, Bard.
Oh. Damn, that was good. I liked that.
You going to school, baby?
Oh, man. And then I walk out of the other side, and I'm wearing like a tweed jacket with the leather patches on the elbows.
Yeah.
And I have a bubble pipe. And I'm like, consider the Bard. Pipe, 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 pipe.
So, we, a while ago, probably back in the blunder years, as we like to call it here in the office, we talked about the D&D classes, and your, these can all also move over to your fantasy RPG tabletop games, but we went through them and realized we kind of really just did like the book interpretation and what we gained from that, and we decided we'd like to go in and really kind of pick apart the kind of subtle nuances of having these classes in your game, whether or not you're playing it or kind of the dungeon master for it.
Sure.
So, I don't know if you wanted to start about your thoughts on the Bard class.
Sure. So
since this is kind of your new favorite as of late,
I'm gonna I started playing D&D when I was, technically in high school, but I really got into it in college back during the fourth had to come out, but we were playing 3.5, and I always thought that the concept of a bard was very silly, because it was like you have like barbarians with like axes and they can do all this damage, and you have like clerics that can like literally call forth like the divine fires of God, and you have like wizards who can like literally shape the will, like reality, and then you have like paladins who like have swords, and then there was like a bard who was like, I got a mandolin, ding twing 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 twing. But as I started reading through like 5th edition and started thinking about what I wanted to be, as I was reading through the bard section, I was like, that kind of looks like it might be fun. So I had played a bard in another game, and I liked it so much that I was like, yeah, I might consider playing a longer term bard that I still quite haven't done yet. But anyway, bard kind of falls into, I would say, 3 pretty distinct categories. And feel free to disagree with me on this, Cody. They're pretty great support characters. So they have magic, but they have a nice balance of like support healing magic, and then of course you have bardic inspiration, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I'm sure. They're very good utility players because much like rogues, they can get expertise in a few skills, but unlike rogues, they actually get a class feature when you hit level 2, which is called Jack of All Trades, which basically you can add half of your proficiency bonus to any roll you make ever, even if you're not trained in that skill, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it does give you a slight advantage on doing everything at least a little bit better, which I think's pretty cool. And then third, and this was something that was really improved, in my opinion, from Xanthar's Guide to Everything. You can build pretty radically like different bard characters that play completely differently from one another, which I think is super cool. Which is not to say that, like every class, no matter what path you take, there's going to be a little bit of differences here or there, but like there are some aspects of different colleges in the bard system that make your characters almost like radically different from one another. Like you could in theory have 5 different bards and have them feel like 5 completely different characters, which I think is super cool. It gives you a lot of versatility as you build your character. So initial thoughts from you, Mr. Cody, Professor Cody.
Yes, let me adjust my glasses here really quick and write something on the chalkboard.
Yes.
Insert just the most awful chalk screeches.
Chalk, 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 chalk.
From
chalk,
a
chalk.
from a DM's perspective, Bard is definitely an interesting one. I think it's super fun. Like, I think it's like just a fun class. Like, just conceptually, I don't know how it is like in actual like process, because I know your Bard or your multi-class Bard situation.
Yeah.
Was you were at the low levels of Bard in a kind of high level campaign, so we didn't really get to see a whole lot of that like crazy Bard action.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, as a dungeon master, I think bards are the most fun to incorporate in your world.
Yeah.
Like, for instance, in D&D 5th edition, the subclasses, if you will, are like colleges, you know, like the College of Glamour or Valor, Lore, Swords, Whispers, like they're all colleges. So how does that fit in your world? Is it almost like Tolkien, where, you know, magic is kind of rare, or, you know, within very small select groups? Or can anyone learn to be a bard at some capacity, you know? Like, are these colleges like, you know, is it like modern day America, where there's just fucking a community college at every fucking, you know, street corner? Or is it like a mentorship program where like you can only become a bard if like a high level bard is like, nah, I have to teach you the ways of being a bard? Because on one hand, D&D kind of emphasizes this idea that it's a little bit of book learning, but it's also your natural gift, because like you weave the magic of being a bard through like the, you know, the harmonizing tones and how they interact with the arcane. So you know, part of your thing is going to be, how does that fit in your game?
Yeah.
You know, on top of like the kind of the organizational structure, I always like to add some kind of progression outside of what the game offers. Because the game, at least in my games, the base leveling up is not like or shouldn't be. It can, but like, I try to offer other ways to instill progression. Like, it doesn't have to be, oh, I'm a level 10 bard. That's how I know how far I've gone.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to add and tweak the mechanics, or add new mechanics in the game. So for Bard, this one was actually fairly easy. And I came up with this idea of, what if your Bard had a side almost reputation? And it's like a level, it's like mechanically a level of fame or infamy. And as you and the party do stuff, and as the bard weaves its story, how does the world take that? You know, are you this like, you know, seemingly unstoppable force of might? Are you this ragtag group of adventurers? And on top of that, instead of it just being like, oh, you're famous or you're infamous in this area, how does that affect it mechanically? Like, maybe you reward the bard for going around and kind of spreading the gospel of the party, and maybe people are, as soon as they see you, like, they want to talk to you. So it's very easy to get information or get people to talk to you, or maybe even higher persuasion checks when, like, maybe bartering with somebody, stuff like that.
Sure.
And then on top of that, you also, as a dungeon master, have to think about, well, what kind of NPCs or allies can a bard expect so that they feel like they're part of this world? Yeah. And the first thought I like, and this goes back to organization and how bards work, is these could be other members of the college. Like, the college doesn't have to be just like, oh, I came from that college. Well, what if there's an NPC, like maybe there's like a side character who has it out for the bard because he slighted him in bard college and like got him an F in presentation 101.
Sure.
And so he's out there like spreading false rumors and always trying to like pit people against you before you even get into town. Maybe, and I know this gets thrown around a lot, the way I use bards in my current world is that they're basically like celebrities, right? Like part of it is like you go to school to become a bard, but like the other part is like telling good stories and having people remember you, much like we kind of hyper focus on celebrities.
Yeah.
So they're kind of like the actors and actresses or whatever you want to, however you want to pronoun that in my world. So like, and everyone wants to be friends with them, even the rich and famous, like other people who aren't like they're not bards, but like they're also rich. So maybe these other NPCs that you meet, like as you gain fame, maybe nobility wants to like come out to you and be like, I want you to play that play that you do at my banquet and what have you. Like there's so many ways to include NPCs and allies and things like that make your bard feel like they're part of the world.
Yeah.
And I think that's really exciting because it's so easy to just be like, okay, who really loves or hates them? How does that affect the party? And so, as a dungeon master, these are the things that I think about when I know somebody's going to be playing a bard. Plus, I love bards. Bards are dope.
Yeah. If I could bring up too, so without giving away too much, like in our current campaign, we have a person playing a bard, and her character is like a party animal. She based his character very much on John Ralphio from Parks and Rec, if you're familiar with that television program. And one of the things that Cody had us do is think of potentially character flaws that could impact us or the party and make our life difficult. And one of the things is, this kind of concept of celebrity, bards like to brag. And bards like to talk, and maybe bards might spill secrets that they don't intend to tell, because it's all a part of the story, right? If you look through the Dungeon Master, or if you look through the D&D guide, one of the things they say is, to a bard, the story is like the most important thing. It's how you build your legacy, and it's how you build your thing. So all of it's about stories. So I remember in another campaign I played, when I briefly played the bard, I was rewarded if I were to write, maybe a couple of lines, like maybe as much as a paragraph, of like a summary of adventures we had been on, which I could use to like, make my performance checks easier. Like if I was like, this is a story of how our family, or, how our group, fought the robots of like the gnomish dungeon. And, I would say like a couple lines, and then it would make the performance check easier, because like, it's very clear that I was actually writing and paying attention to the stories. Things like that. I will say another thing is sometimes DMs will make it a challenging. I will say it's a fun challenging, where like one of the things that bards almost always have is a spell called Vicious Mockery, and so like that particular DM would not allow me to cast Vicious Mockery unless I viciously mocked the enemy.
That's funny. I mean, I don't think. I mean, I would pose that as like a potential. Like if our current bard character does cast Vicious Mockery, I would ask them like, do you have an insult in mind, or
yeah?
But I do enjoy when the player gets really into like the Vicious Mockery, or how they use their bardic inspiration to help out the party and stuff like that.
I will say that too. Yeah, bardic inspiration is a really cool thing that you have, which is, I believe it's based on your charisma modifier. But you have a number of dice that you can reward to your party that begins as a D6, and it steadily improves as you go along. But for the next 10 minutes, basically anytime a player makes a roll, they can choose to add an inspiration dice, which could mean the difference between success and failure. Although I believe they have to choose it before the DM tells you if it's a success or a failure, right?
It's we haven't run into it yet, so
let me look at it.
I have no idea at the current moment.
The creature can wait until after it rolls the d20 before deciding to use the bardic inspiration die, but must decide before the DM says whether the roll succeeds or fails. Yeah.
Nice.
So yeah, so like if you think that a 12 ain't gonna cut it, you can choose to roll the d6, which could take you as high as 18, which will definitely almost always do it. At least for, your pretty standard rolls. But, I think that, the Bard is, fun for a few reasons. One, it allows you to, play kind of a non-traditional, adventuring character. Mainly because, our media doesn't necessarily have a huge number of adventurer bards. We have characters who maybe fall under the bard mantle, but they tend to be stationary, or they tend to show up for only a scene or two. But this one's like a bard who's like really out there getting their hands dirty for the best stories. Which, is fun and it's different. 2, you just get the joy of playing rockin' music to kill enemies, which is a lot of fun. And 3, like Cody said, it's an interesting way to kind of build lore into your world, because not only is it lore, it's lore that you are creating. So,
yeah.
Any final thoughts on your end?
Final thoughts. As a DM, bards are going to get up to lots of fun and or crazy social encounters, because their spellcasting modifier is also based on their charisma. And plus, a lot of the different subclasses have like really cool ribbon abilities that work primarily in social encounters. So I would be prepared for that, and I think it's super fun. If you like magic and you like people jamming out and singing, like, having a bard in the group can be a breath of fresh air in a potentially, grim and violent campaign.
Yeah. I'll also say this one last thing too. If you can, get Xanathar's Guide to Everything, if you're thinking of being a bard, just because I feel it's the one class that was like very greatly improved with Xanathar's Guide to Everything. Like every class got like 1 or 2 cool different, subclasses, but I feel bard, like I said, it gives you a lot of options, including like a weird like assassin bard, like, which is kind of a crazy concept if you think about it.
Yeah, I like it. I love the College of Whispers because it reminds me of Dragon Age, where a lot of like the high level, or like the high members of society, like the royalty and nobility, like bards were like spies and assassins. And so there's that really cool like going around and like backstabbing people or telling secrets or gaining secrets, creating spy networks. Like that's a totally like a really cool bard vibe that up until Xanathar's we didn't really have, because like lore and valor are cool, and I think they really kind of opened up the 2 kind of main ideas of what a bard could be. But with Xanathar's they really like expanded that even further in ways that I wasn't expecting.
I would agree with that.
Yeah.
But shall we wrap her up?
Yes.
All right. Thank you guys for listening to another episode of Fan Roulette. As always, this was a pleasure recording this for you. This is a fun one, especially fun one this week. I think we had a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Please go back to the middle section to find out about our social media. But as always, I always like to end with the similar thing. You now hear it twice per episode. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe, or share with a friend. This just gives us a little bit more popularity, a little bit more notoriety, moves us up those charts. And how about this? If you write a review this week, obviously give us 5 stars, because boy howdy, this is a 5-star podcast. And in your review, describe what your ultimate bard song title would be.
Yeah.
Or tweet that at us. Either way.
Yes.
Just know that you're part of the conversation. But thank you very much for listening again. Signing off for Fan Roulette. This is Joe.
And I'm Cody.
And as always, stay nerdy.
Stay super nerdy.